How do you see Seattle's defensive personnel right now? Because obviously we have high expectations, or high hopes rather, for the defense under Mike Macdonald, but it's a different group than Baltimore.
Yeah, Stacey, I'm working on this column for The Ringer where I'm going to rank all the defenses in my projections going into the season. And I don't know exactly where the Seahawks are going to be, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be higher than consensus. I mean, I look at the talent there, and I just feel like the cupboard's not bare. Like, Mike Macdonald's not going into a group where he's got to just say, all right, this is a 2-year rebuild. We need another draft class. I mean, they've got guys up front, Murphy, Leonard Williams, Uchenna Nwosu, Draymond Jones. Like, I'm not telling you any of those guys is a star and is going to be defensive player of the year, but like, these guys have played solid quality football before. And then I look at the secondary, and it's the same thing. Reek Woolen might not have been the same guy last year, but we've seen that guy be a high-level player in the NFL. It's okay to be excited about Devon Witherspoon. So everything I've heard about Mike Macdonald is that this guy's kind of play calling and knowing what each situation in the game calls for and knowing how to attack a specific opponent is at the highest level in terms of defensive coaches in the NFL. So I think I'm pretty bullish that this Seahawks defense can surprise some people this season.
I got these guys finishing at 9-8 this year, but finishing at 9-8 with clear improvements, right? Be better against the run, be a better defense. I think offensively, there's a lot to work with there. What are your projections for the Seahawks? This division is going to be tough. Obviously, the Niners lead the charge. You got the Rams who are going to be good, and the Cardinals are making some noise too, man. The NFC West is going to be tough.
Yeah, I covered the Seahawks out there in 2015 and 2016, and now I'm doing my summer, prep work. And guess what? It's the same question I had when I covered the team. Is the offensive line going to be good enough? How are we still doing this, guys? It's been almost 10 years we're asking the same question about the same group. So really, that's what it is. I mean, I look at them and I say, man, if you guarantee me that it's just going to be an average offensive line, I think I've got them as a sneaky wild card team in the NFC. I think that Geno Smith will be good enough. I like the pass catchers. I like the coaching staff. And I just told you I think the defense is going to overachieve. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. I'm also in that 9-10 win range, and I'm trying to decide, do I have them getting into the playoffs or not? I think there's enough talent there. But, if you guys call me in week 7 and you say, Sheil, this offensive line, is it one of the worst in the NFL? And is it, screwing up everything with this team? And we say, yeah, that's what's happening. That wouldn't surprise me either. I mean, the floor, I think, with that group is pretty low. So they need some of those young guys to play well. They need some of the veterans to show they've still got something left. And, of course, they need to stay healthy.
Seattle's been struggling to put together that offensive line for so long. I mean, you obviously just noted that it was the same question that you were covering when you were here, which also made me feel really old. But when you recently, for an episode I just listened to, broke down your list of the top offenses. So I know that you've recently looked at a lot of the best groups in the league. How common is it that that teams actually have pretty elite groups of offensive linemen? Is it just a position that's really hard to build?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's two things. One is there's this theory from some coaches, some people in the NFL, where they say, it's not about getting an all-pro. It's about not having a weak link on the offensive line. So you don't need the most talented group. You need to make sure you don't have that one guy, those two guys, the defensive coordinators, when they're game planning, say, man, we can attack right here, and they're going to have no answers for it. So I think that's an interesting theory that some teams are implementing. And then you have some offensive coaches that have become really good at scheming around the shortcomings, the lack of talent on the offensive line. That could mean getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. That could mean play action, misdirection, keeping the defense off balance, where it's not just guys blocking one-on-one where you have a talent disadvantage. I look at that 49ers team in the Seahawks division. You put those 5 offensive linemen out there and compare them to the rest of the league, I don't think anybody would say that's an above-average group. Same thing with Miami. And Miami has had one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL the last 2 seasons, but those coaches do a very good job of scheming around those deficiencies up front. So I think that's an interesting question to kind of look at with Grubb this year, and there's high expectations for him. If he needs to do that, is he capable of doing that? After last season, he had probably the best offensive line in all of college football.